And we're live. Hello, everyone. Jose Youngs here, MMAfighting.com, live on the scene at the UFC Boston, UFC on ESPN 6, whatever you want to call it. We are live here at the UFC Boston official weigh-ins here at the Hyatt Regency in lovely Cambridge, Massachusetts. No one stepped on the scale yet. I'm here solo. I'll try and grab a few other fellow journos, whatever you want to call it, to pop in, give us their take on what's happening. We are, of course, streaming live on the MMAfighting.com's YouTube page. Check out all of the hot content we've had all week. We had the open workouts at Peter Welch's historic gym. We had a banger of a media day yesterday. But of course, we are here. My name is Jose Youngs. We are here. We have as people are saying, the dangerous side view. I will try not to allow you guys to see what you shouldn't see, okay? Hopefully they still use the hoop. I know they use it in Abu Dhabi. I believe it was Abu Dhabi. I can't quite remember. But hopefully, if any fighters need, specifically male fighters, need the towel, hopefully we get the hoop this time. And I apologize if my camera is slightly leaning up. The tripod broke. Two of the three legs are snapped, so I'm doing I wish I could show you guys, a little MacGyver situation to hold this bad boy up, but nonetheless, we are here. We are live. I'm going to mute you for a second so I can get a cup of coffee. I'll be back. We're supposed to kick off in 3 minutes. No one's weighed in. I see Paul Felder behind us walking about, but I will be back momentarily. Of course, this is Jose Youngs, live on the scene at the UFC Boston official weigh-ins. And we're back here at the UFC on Boston, UFC on ESPN 6, whatever you want to call it. We are here live on the scene. Our good friend, my friend and yours, Oscar Willis, is here of the Mac Life. Oscar, how are you enjoying this lovely, overcast, rainy Boston?
I tell you what, it just reminds me of home. Yeah, no, it's good. I like being Boston. Last time I was here, I got punched in the face by a random dude in the street, so that made me feel, like I was really welcome here, and hopefully that'll happen again.
Tell us the story. What, one guy, two guys, three guys?
Well, no, listen, I'm not Pete Carroll. I don't get chinned by 5 blokes all walking down the street. But it was just a random guy. He was from Ireland. I totally deserved it. So there you go. And he's going to film these weigh-ins now.
Well, we see Joe Lozon creeping in. Oscar will, of course, be back. We got a lot of comments the last time him and Pete did it, so we'll try to have him back. I see Joe Lozon. I think I see Randy Costa coming up. I think you guys see them too, if I'm not mistaken. Yep, you guys see them. But I'm here. I have all of our comments on the scene. Hit me with whatever you got. We can talk fist fighting. We can talk RIP Joe Rogan. We can talk RIP Brian Callen. Nonetheless, we are live here at the Hyatt Regency in lovely Cambridge, Massachusetts. I'm off to the side. My Lyft driver was not the greatest getting here, but that is a story for another time. We are... And Joe Lozon up first. I am going to finish with the camera, so bear with me. This is the first fighter on the scale. I want to make sure I get a good view for all you fine people. I'm going to put you guys down for a second so I can fix this camera. 153 for Joe Lozon. I apologize if that was muted for a second. I didn't want to hear you clicking around the camera, but Joe Lozon weighs in at 153 pounds. Has not fought since his last fight in April, I believe 2018, UFC 223, which is, of course, the card. Conor and Khabib got into that little scuffle in the parking lot on the bus, but his teammate Randy Costa up next, holding his friends. For the life of me, I can't remember his friend's name, and I feel terrible for it. Spoke openly about it at the media day. Lost to Brandon Davis. Brandon Davis, of course, took the picture and used his platform. 134 for Randy Costa. There you have it. Of course, Brandon Davis took the picture, used his own platform to give Randy Costa's friend the shine that Randy was not able to give because he came up short. I believe that was at UFC 234. Sean Brady up next, welterweight. Joe Rogan podcast by night. Damn, is Joe fighting? Yes, he is. He has not fought in a while. Says that Friday, of course, these are Friday fights. Joe Lozon might retire after Friday. You never know. $167.5 for Sean Brady. And I'm getting told by our own AK Lee that the teammate that Randy Costa's picture he held was Devin Carrier. So far, 3 fighters up, 3 fighters below the weight limit. Joe Lozon 153. I believe Randy Costa was like 134. Kevin Holland up next, middleweight. Big mouth, as UFC President Dana White calls him. Let's see what Big Mouth has to say on the scale. $183.5 for Kevin Holland. Another fighter below the weight limit. Looks like Molly McCann is up next, if I'm not mistaken. I see a woman waiting to weigh in on the side. I can't quite make it out. And I was right. Molly McCann moonwalks in. Molly McCann weighs in, gives Kevin Randleman a little shout saying she's better than you. Let's see what she does. $125 for Meatball Molly McCann. A longtime staple of Pete Carroll's Eurobash podcast over on MMAfighting.com. If you haven't, give it a read. One of the expecting to make noise in the women's flyweight division. As already says, she envisions herself eventually fighting champion Valentina Shevchenko. Yair Rodriguez up next. One half of our co-main event. If you've forgotten, he of course that controversial no contest against Jeremy Stevens where he poked him in the eye like 15 seconds in. More on that later. Let's see what happens. 145 for El Pantera, Yair Rodriguez. One half of our co-main event is set. Of course, had that no contest Jeremy Stevens, UFC Mexico. The crowd turned hostile through beer. 15 seconds in, what was a main event in his home city of Mexico City is now a co-main event in Boston, Massachusetts. A lot of bad blood between those two, but that's another time. Charles Rosa up next, Boston Strong. Let's see. I'm reading your comments now. 144 for Charles. Boston Strong Rosa. Represents the city of Boston harder than almost anyone in the UFC. Used to wear the Boston Bruins jersey out, I believe. I'm going to ask James Lynch next to me. Good friend of, who's your friend on the Bruins?
Brad Marchand, the forward for the Bruins. They're really good friends. He was texting him this week. I think he's trying to get tickets to tonight's game.
Good luck with that. Up next is, I did not make out the name. On the scale, Diana Belbita. Take on Molly McCann. 125 for Diana Belbita. Molly McCann in the back, jokingly saying, "You don't got shit on me." All in good fun. All in good fun. So far, everyone has made weight. I've lost track of who's weighed in, so don't ask me. Derek Stewart up next. Darren Stewart. I don't know why I said Derek Stewart. I know who Darren Stewart is. Interviewing him in Chicago, UFC 238. $185 for Darren Stewart, who takes on Derron Win on the main card of this ESPN 2 card. Derron Win, Darren Win. I apologize. It's been a long morning, okay? My Lyft driver was terrible. I've had, decaf coffee is no good for me. I'm trying to quit. It's been a morning, okay? It's cold, it's raining. I'm from Arizona. Sean Woodson up next, featherweight, taking on Boston's own Kyle Bochniak, the prelim card. Blind people are not cowards. All right. That was one of the comments. 144 and a half for Sean Woodson. So far, everyone's made weight. I've lost track of who'd weighed in. Like I've said 1,000 times, I'm sure you don't want to hear it. Got here a little late. Traffic in Boston is terrible. No one ever drive in the city of Boston. Take public transportation if possible. Ben Sassoli up next, taking on Greg Hardy. One of the more soft-spoken fighters at Media Day, but nonetheless, one of the more popular fighters, specifically because of who he's fighting. He says he's felt the love. People telling him they want him to beat Greg Hardy. Greg Hardy understands that Ben Sassoli is going to be the fan favorite in this, but that's a story for another time. When we get a little break, we can rap about Media Day. 264 for Ben Sassoli. 1 pound under the heavyweight limit. Unbelievable. Not the tallest fighter, but clearly the heaviest guy on this card. And well, let's see what Greg Hardy weighs when he comes in. But Ben Sassoli, 264, 1 pound under the heavyweight limit. You don't see many fighters get that close that aren't cutting weight. But said he was on the Melbourne card, was blown away by what happened. Kyle Bochniak up next, Boston's own. Declared he was, 10 years sober, if I'm not mistaken, James? 10 years sober, Kyle Bochniak. Boston's own. Apparently there's a great feature piece on him on the local news. Nesson, my hometown, my home area of New England, home of the Boston Red Sox, did a brilliant feature on him. I suggest if you're in the area to check it out. $145 for Kyle Bochniak. Those of you who don't remember, was in that absolute banger of a fight against a beat back at UFC 223, I believe, on that Brooklyn card. Screamed it's a beat, and they just went to war. Unbelievable fight. Looking to get back in front of his hometown. Last time he fought in Boston, short notice fight, gets a full camp this time, but I see Chris Weidman up next, former middleweight champion, making his light heavyweight debut in the main event against Dominick Reyes. Of course, beat Anderson Silva twice, beat Lyoto Machida, lost his title to Luke Rockhold, and since then it's been a little bit of a skid. He's lost to Yoel Romero, he's lost to Jacare, he's lost to Gegard Mousasi, he's become Gastelum. But let's see how he looks at light heavyweight on Friday night. Clearly looks thicker on the scale, but let's see what he weighs. 204 for Chris Weidman, former middleweight champion, making his light heavyweight debut with ease. Of course, we'll have clips of this all soon. Once there's a break, I'll get these all out for you. Court the Crusher McGee up next, welterweight. Utah's own Court McGee, veteran of the Ultimate Fighter, has also one of the more incredible stories. Came from some of the darkest places you can imagine to be fighting the octagon of the UFC. I remember well, I was at his Utah fight. Huge pop when he walked out, but let's see what he hits the scale. 170. 170 for Court McGee. Again, one of the better stories in MMA. Came from one of the darkest, brink of death stories. Now fights in the octagon. It's just anyone. Go check it out. I don't see anyone coming up next. There might be a little break. I'm here. I'm responding to your comments. So hit me. Questions. What do you want to talk about? UFC Boston. UFC Melbourne. RIP Joe Rogan. Nope. He's still alive. RIP Will Smith. Nope. He's still alive. But I'll be right back. I need more of this decaf coffee because, of course, it's just water that tastes like dirt. I'll be back in a second. And we're back on my crappy decaf coffee. James, I'm going to speak with you. A lot of fighters coming in underweight. You think that's because of the scale situation? You think that's just, what do you think's happening here?
I think we have a lot of fighters that are also competing in the right weight class. You know, like we're seeing Weidman finally fight at 205, not having to focus as much on the cut. And I think just in general, we're just seeing a smarter approach to weight cutting, it seems, in a lot of situations. And I think we just have a bunch of fighters right now that are just, especially on this card, that are fighting in the proper weight.
And you've actually brought up, I'm curious your take on this. We spoke a little bit about it before Media Day. You asked a lot of the fighters that new CSAC rule regulation where you can't go above 50% of your weight, or you can't gain back 50% of your weight after your weight cut, or they'll actually cancel your fight. Dominick Reyes said it's smart. Jeremy Stevens was not aware of the rule. To no surprise to anyone, but I don't hate the rule. I mean, it's definitely going to affect a lot of California's fights coming up, especially because like Yoel Romero and Paulo Costa would not have been able to fight in Anaheim if that was the case. But what's your take on this whole situation?
My take is I think it's a step in the right direction. I like how they're trying different things, but you saw the response on social media very negative from the fighters. I saw Lauren Murphy today saying, "I'll never fight in California." But conversely, I've talked to other fighters and they like the idea. I mean, there's fighters that aren't cutting excessive amount of weight to get down to the limit. So I think from that perspective, you're going to cut out some of those fighters that are clearly cutting too much weight. But we're going to run into problems. You know there's going to be canceled fights if that's the case, just because there's fighters that are going to continue to try and take advantage of that. And the reason I do like it is because they are trying something different, and I think they need to do something because it's still an issue in 2019 where you have fighters who are still cutting too much. I mean, it wasn't that long ago we had Aspen Ladd on the Sacramento card looking terrible on the scales, and that's the fact that that's still happening is still kind of crazy to me. But I think it's the right move.
I agree. I don't hate it at all. I think it's a bummer that a lot of these fighters won't be able to fight in their home state, but Dem's the rules, as they say. I doubt Daniel Cormier would have been able to fight John Jones at UFC. I believe it was 214 in Anaheim. Like we said, Costa and Romero definitely would have been able to fight. Aspen Ladd wouldn't have been able to fight. I don't think Demetrius Johnson would have been able to fight Henry Cejudo. Who knows if Henry Cejudo would have been able to fight? So a lot of implication for future title fights in the city of L.A., Sacramento, any other places they go. I know they want to go back to the Bay Area. They would be foolish not to bring one of the Diaz brothers, but poking around, see who we else have. Mike Heck of Flow Combat. Come join us. Is this your debut on an MMA fighting golf chat?
Yeah, I don't think I've done anything for MMA fighting before, so this is like the overall debut.
Well, this is the overall debut for Mike Heck of Boston, representing the 4-time champion post-2000 Boston Red Sox. Mike, we've been talking about this. A lot of fighters coming underweight to the weight limit. You're a Boston guy. What's going on here?
I don't know. Maybe they were trying to find Dunkin' Donuts like me and Mr. Lynch did this morning. Couldn't find one. So we mapped out 2 different Dunkin' Donuts this morning. None of them existed. So maybe they were just trying to find Dunkin' Donuts, couldn't find them, and they didn't.
Now, I've lived in New England for almost 18 years before I moved out west, and I feel like you don't need to map Dunkin' Donuts. You just walk outside and there's like 7 or 8. So you've managed to find the only 2 Dunkin' Donuts that don't exist.
Yeah, we drove all the way to Fenway. We drove a couple different places. So we ended up finding one on Mass Ave. I hope no police officers are listening right now, but I parked in a taxi drop spot, ran out and got a coffee and Mr. Lynch a sandwich, and here we are. So I think maybe they're just really hungry. But a lot of guys, 2.5, 3 pounds underweight.
We have a theory that a lot of fighters are now, if you're looking at this card, they're fighting at their natural weight class, like the Weidmans. A lot of fighters going up in weight, and maybe they're coming under. But we can speculate all we want. It might be just a scale situation where the scale's a little lighter than this scale right here. But as we said, you're from this neck of the woods. What's been the vibe? Are people excited? Because if you look at in the past Boston cards, we've had, the last time we were here, you and I covered it back when our old Stomach McGraw, the Sports Illustrated fan sided. UFC 220, we had double title fights with Francis Ngannou and Stipe Miocic. Co-main event was Daniel Cormier and Volkanovski. A lot of great fights on that card. Before that, we had Cruz and Dillashaw. We had McGregor-Seaver. We've had Shogun and Son, where McGregor fought Max Holloway. On the prelims, Overeem fought Travis Brown, the last ever fight of Mike Brown. How does this card stack up to those? Because I'm sure either whether you've covered them, I'm sure you've been there as a fan. What's the vibe of the city like now compared to past Boston cards?
220's vibe was unbelievable. Just walking around and talking to the fans, just a couple hours before the event. I mean, there was a buzz in the air the entire week with Stipe and Ngannou, the unstoppable heavyweight killer. This is a little more subdued, but I think as we get closer, I think you're going to see a lot of people at the weigh-ins tonight. I think you're going to, and it's weird having a Friday card. I think that's kind of throwing things off a little bit. I think everyone's sort of a day behind at this point. So I think we're dealing with that. But, just people I've talked to that live in the area right now, they are excited. They are planning to come out. And one thing I like about these Boston cards is they come out early, and they come out for the very first fight of the night. So I think by the time we get into the Garden Friday, we'll be able to hear the buzz in the air. And I think it'll be 75-80% full right off the bat.
Are there any underlying storylines that you've liked to highlight for specifically Boston fighters? We spoke a little bit when Joe Lozon came on. He's repped Boston in the Massachusetts area like no one else the last few years. He's kind of been the face of Massachusetts MMA since Kenny Florian kind of went away. Gabriel Gonzaga, of course, lives out here. He's no longer in the UFC. Tim Sylvia from Maine. Mike Brown's retired, now doing great things at ATT. But Friday night might be Joe Lozon's last fight. He's undecided. He said he wants to see if he wins, maybe he takes another one. If he loses, that's probably it. It also depends on his actual performance. If this truly is the last time we see Joe Lozon inside an octagon, as a New England native, what will be your lasting memories?
Just being excited every time he was on a card. You knew it's going to be a banger every time Joe Lozon fights, and I think you're going to see his legacy kind of live on with the Randy Costas of the world, even the Kyle Bochniaks of the world. The community, the MMA community here in New England is unbelievable. And I was talking to Mike Pulver, who actually manages Manny Bermudez, and he was saying that everyone just kind of comes together. There's this huge community of cross-training gyms. They all train together. They all support each other. So I think, even though he may not be fighting in the cage anymore, I still think his legacy is going to move on within his fighters in the New England community. So it'll be tough. It'll be a weird situation to see if he puts the gloves down in the middle of the cage. He's got a really tough task ahead of him with a really awkward fighter in Jonathan Pierce. So like the matchup, and I like Bochniak being a good story too, fighting another Contender Series guy in Sean Woodson. How Sean Woodson makes 145 is unbelievable.
I saw him on the scale. I'm just like, how are you even alive right now?
It's unreal. I think we're going to continue on here.
Looks like we're going to continue on here. Thanks, Mike. We'll chat later. You might be on our preview show. Who knows? But I'm seeing rumblings on the side, but I don't see anybody. There's apparently an argument of whether Crone Gracie beat Cub Swanson in our comment section. I don't think there's really a debate that Cub Swanson won that fight. Maybe Crone disagrees, but Boston Salmon I see poking around. Boston Salmon coming out. He takes on Randy Costa in a bantamweight bout on the prelims. Very good friends with Randy Costa. Neither of them seem to won't affect them to punch a friend, as they say. Let's see how he hits the scale. Not from Boston, named after Boston, fighting in Boston. Fun story, right? $135.5 for Boston Salmon. Again, apologies, my camera keeps leaning. I have MacGyvered this so it doesn't collapse, and I don't see anyone else. Who knows? This decaf coffee is terrible. Let's see what you guys got. Did Dom weigh in yet? No, he has not weighed in. So far, in terms of our main and co-main event, only Chris Weidman and Yair Rodriguez has weighed in. We are still waiting on Jeremy Stephens and Dominick Reyes. Ben Sassoli's weighed in. Derron Stewart's weighed in. Sean Woodson's weighed in. Boston Salmon, Randy Costa, Court McGee, Kevin Holland. There's a lot of fighters left to weigh in. Macy Barber has not weighed in. The earth is shaped like a donut. That's not true. The earth is shaped like an octagon. Nope. What do you guys want to talk about? Randy Costa got 2 rounds to KO Israel. After that, he's just going to get tactically picked apart. Could be. You never know. Decaf, boo. Listen, I agree. I don't like drinking decaf coffee, but I'm trying to quit. I went a week without regular coffee, and I thought I was going to die, James. I think I had the flu, and that was a wake-up call. Why would you ever drink decaf? I'm trying to quit, man, but I need the flavor of coffee in my life. Or women. You never know these days. Don't want to assume. Are you feeling decaffeinated, Shane, with every sip? You don't even want to talk about it. Why even drink decaf? Guys, I'm trying to quit. What is worse, decaf or Modelo? Decaf, 100%. Decaf is just dirty water. Jose, did you make fight picks? Not yet. Not yet. I want to see how people look on the scale first. What choice was Brian Ortega given to? Ha, ha, ha. Decaf, really? Yeah, guys, I get it. Decaf sucks. I'm trying to quit. It's a process. Daniel Spitz poking around the corner. Yeah, I get caffeine headaches. What of it? Daniel Spitz out. First fight of the preliminary card. Heavyweight bout. Shouldn't have any problems on the scale. $240. Daniel Spitz. Obviously no problem making the heavyweight limit. Another fighter down. Weigh-ins are going a little slow. Winter ceremonial weigh-ins. They're actually going to be at the Orpheum in downtown Boston. Jeremy Stephens up next, one half of our co-main event. I see him poking around the corner. Said he had no problem cutting back down to 145 after a quick turnaround from his no contest. Was very fired up. Said if he doesn't kill Yair Rodriguez, then this fight doesn't count. I saw him, but where'd he go? There we go. Big pop for Jeremy Stephens on the back. Not the easiest cut, but Said he had no issues making it. $145.5 for Jeremy Stevens. John at Pantera's, Yair Rodriguez team, family members, whatever back there. Jeremy Stevens, John's back saying, your boy's going to die. You're going to have to pick him off. A little bit of an argument between Jeremy Stevens' camp and Yair Rodriguez camp. In the back right now, I would turn around, but I'm afraid my camera would collapse and we would lose this stream. I apologize. No issues between camps, though. I think it's all just friendly. Well, probably not friendly, but a lot of back and forth. But Yair Rodriguez's team is walking out. I don't know if you heard it, but there was an El Pantara chant in the back. Jeremy Stevens laughs at them, says your boy's going to die. So heated stuff between Jeremy Stevens and Yair Rodriguez. Now, you've been covering the sport for a while. The original co-main event, I'm speaking with James Lynch next to me, of The Score. That's right. Had to give your site a little plug. We've worked together. We've been doing this for a long time. The original co-main event between Zabit and Calvin Kattar fell out. Now it's going to be in Moscow, I believe, correct? So yes. Calvin Kattar went from fighting in his hometown to now fighting against Zabit's hometown. But this co-main event now with Jeremy Stevens, Yair Rodriguez, is this more? Are you more hyped for this co-main event than the original co-main event? Now, I mean, Zabit Calvin Kattar is an unbelievable fight, and I love that fight. But this fight has really seemed to capture the audience.
Yes, I agree. We got Greg Hardy, by the way, coming up to the scales. Yes, because of what happened. I mean, if that fight had ended in a close decision, it wouldn't have as much, build up. But now we have the eye poke, we had all the stuff that happened after, and all that. So yeah, absolutely. I mean, like you said, Zabit, Kattar, great fight. But we're talking about a fight with some serious pro wrestling rivalry here.
Sure. And we'll get more from James in a second. Greg Hardy, former NFL Pro Bowler, up next. I don't know what more there is to say about this man. Interesting media day, I'll give him that.
$264.5.
264.5. $264.5 for Greg, the Prince of War Hardy, as he gives the media a little wave. I'm looking at your comments right now. Yeah, this is decaf. Decaf equals Colby. Yeah, I get it. Decaf is terrible. Zabit, future champion. Everyone turns down to fight him. Could be. But I'll echo what my good friend James Lynch was saying. The co-main event between Yair and Jeremy. I think to put into perspective, Dana White always teases the fight weeks, and normally it's the main event. He says, say when Justin Gaethje fought Cowboy, he tweets a picture or Instagrams a picture of Justin Gaethje and Cowboy saying fight week, blah blah blah, this and that. This week he said fight week, Dominick Reyes, Chris Weidman, and Jeremy Stevens and Yair Rodriguez. And what picture did he pick? Picture of Yair and Jeremy Stevens. So I think that just goes to show you even the higher ups are a little more paying attention to this fight a little more than the main event. A lot of fans I've interacted with have been asking about the co-main event, not the main event. Jeremy Stevens says this is the main event. Yair Rodriguez recognizes that Chris Weidman and Dominick Reyes are the co-main event. But I tell you what, in terms of fan interest, the co-main event was capturing the eyes. And I'm going to put you down for one quick second so I can get some of these social clips out for you, and I will be back in. Start your timers, and you tell me how long I've been gone. And we're back. How long was I gone, guys? You tell me. He just relapsed on coffee. No, I didn't, man. I think Crone will get up to speed, and I really do think if he does, he will be champ someday. Could be. Really needs to learn striking first. Weidman had some bad luck lately. Hope he gets back on track tomorrow. You're not lying. Say he's superstitious about fighting in New York. He's got knocked out badly by Jacare, knocked out badly by Yoel Romero. Had a little bit of a weird ending against Gegard Mousasi up in Buffalo. Of course, beat Kelvin Gastelum, but did get dropped in that fight. Very exciting fight in front of his hometown in Long Island. But looking at the rest of your... Yeah, decaf sucks. Quit telling me that. Why are you drinking decaf, soy boy? Yeah, okay. Jeremy versus Yair should have been main event. Weidman is going to be boring. Well, I disagree completely on Weidman versus Reyes being boring. I think that's an absolutely banger of a fight. Whether that's title implications or not, I just like that fight as a legit high-level martial art. Was there an A-side live chat yesterday? No, I'm sorry. There was no live chat yesterday. We were in the middle of media day. We were streaming the scrums. I didn't want to double stream. Plus, I was here doing media day, so no, there was no live chat yesterday. We'll be back to our normally scheduled time at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific on the MMA Fighting YouTube page, and, of course, on iTunes. Oh, now, there is no iTunes. iTunes doesn't exist anymore. Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, Google Play, you name it, it's probably up there. But A-Side will be back next week. You tell me who you want as my co-host. A lot of you guys like Pizzi, a lot of you guys like AK, a lot of you guys like Danny. You've heard Brian Kelleher. We had Biggie from the WWE there. So you guys tell me. Volkan was robbed. Yeah, that's what Chris Weidman said. Who do you guys think? Do you think Volkan Ozdemir beat Dominick Reyes in their last fight? I'm gonna actually ask. That fight was in Canada, correct?
Yes.
What did you make of that fight? While you multitask.
I thought Volkan won the fight, and I think Dominick Reyes is great. He had an off fight, and Volkan took advantage. And I was very surprised when they read the scorecards that Reyes got the nod there, but. We've seen some pretty bad decisions overall this year. So, I gave that one to Volkan, though. It was a close fight, but I think you should have given it to Volkan.
I couldn't agree more. Who's speaking right now? Well, that was just James Lynch of The Score, former co-worker of our old stomping ground at Fanside. This is Jose Young's MMAfighting.com here, the UFC Boston weigh-ins. Still a few weigh-ins. Yair has weighed in, he made weight. Jeremy Stevens has weighed in, he made weight. Cup of coffee as your co-host. Man, that's mean. Co-host should be one of them card gals. Yeah, that's not happening. Ratchik is going to murder Volkan. Then you clown can stop saying he got robbed. That fight's a banger fight, too. Someone says, hi, James Lynch.
Hi back.
Even if you're drinking more than 2 a day, I don't think coffee's bad for you. Yeah, see, I agree. I have a lot of thoughts on the matter, but the first week I gave up coffee, I got the shakes, and I felt terrible. I was up on 5 cups a day. You can ask my old coworker Sean. You can ask my old coworker Mark. Photographer extraordinaire Esther Lynn. Of course, they aren't here, but they've seen me pound more coffee than anyone else. And I tell you what, when I quit, I felt like I was going to die. And Dad took that as a sign. James Lynch, he paid for the bucks. I think that's John Lynch. Co-host should be Pat McAfee. Man, you tell him to come on, I'd love to have him on. People love Pizza Carroll. Everyone send Pizza Carroll good vibes right now. Check out his Twitter if you want to know what I'm talking about. Go check out Pizza Carroll's Twitter. James Lynch is actually a good dude.
Oh, thank you.
From Nick Muzzy.
I don't know who that is, but thank you, Nick.
I apologize if I mispronounced your name, Nick. Love your interviews. Volkan is a good fighter. Will Derron Win win? Could be. He hasn't weighed in yet. Derron Win. Man.
I only know that because I've interviewed him.
No, I called him Derron, as in D, like Derron, like D-E. It's Derron Win, okay? Yeah, all right.
Oh, we got Brendan Allen.
Brendan Allen's over there. Oscar Willis giving me grief over here for pronouncing Derron Win's name incorrectly. Greg Hart. Listen, Oscar, I will come over this table and come after you. I'm going to get those guys that tangled the pizza and come after you. And Brendan Allen's coming out right now.
Brendan Allen to the scale.
$185 for Brendan Allen, who takes on Kevin Holland on the prelim card of ESPN 2. No one's missed weight yet. Fingers crossed as I say that. R.I.P. Yair Rodriguez. Well, that's not nice. Drink less cups a day. Man, I'm doing 0 cups a day. Cold coffee. Is Henry Cejudo a gold medalist? Probably. You can see UFC commentator extraordinaire. Top 15 lightweight. Paul Felder next to me. R.I.P. Dana White. How much does that hair weigh? Man, I don't know. Who's next? Who's next? Jonathan Pierce to the scale. Takes on Joe Lozon on the main card. Let's see what he weighs. Big name fight for such a young fighter. $154 and a half for Jonathan Pierce. Takes on Joe Lozon on the main card of ESPN 2 on Friday. Friday night. I can't say that enough. It is Friday night, not Saturday. A lot of you guys have been asking me when the fight is. It is Friday. Luke Thomas found dead. Well, that's just not true either. This card is whack. That's also not true. Why does it smell here? I couldn't tell you, man. I don't know where you are. So you guys give me your prediction. What's your prediction for the main and co-main event? Tell me who wins between Dominick Reyes and Chris Weidman, who wins between Yair Rodriguez and Jeremy Stevens. It is, of course, 9:38 here in Boston, which means I assume a lot of you guys, it is 6:38 who are tuning in. I know there's a lot of fans out in California and the West Coast and Arizona where I'm from. LOL, you read all these stupid RIP comments but won't answer actual questions. Well, give me a question, man. Why is Pete Carroll blocking his face? Who's talking? This is Jose Youngs. Fights are Friday. That is correct. Yair and Weidman. I'm seeing a lot of people pick Yair and Weidman to win. You're irrelevant. Well, that's just rude. My mom would disagree. Weidman Stevens. Old folks get KO'd. Well, tell me who these old folks are. Double KO and double KO. Man, if there's double KO and main co-main event, I guarantee you this will be the most remembered card in UFC history. They keep feeding bums to Hardy. So disappointing. Man, a lot of you guys sleeping on Ben Sassoli. Dude hits hard. I was at his Contender Series fight, or the eye poke, whatever you want to call it, but it's a bummer. Do you think Chris will retain his speed and gas after moving up? Well, I can't say this for the speed, but I think he'll be fine cardio-wise. We've seen a lot of middleweights come up, like Anthony Smith, like Thiago Santos. They've found great success. Luke Rockhold, of course, found the most violent welcoming to the light heavyweight division. Jacare is, of course, fighting Jan Blachowicz in that Sao Paulo card. I'm sure our own Guilherme Cruz will be there. Weidman sleeps, Stevens sleeps. So I'm assuming that's Reyes and Yair pick. Head movement, Pete Carroll, if you're listening, a lot of these guys are telling you to pick up your head movement. Ben Sassoli is fun, certainly underrated. Couldn't agree more. Do you like dragons? More specific. What kind of dragons? Big fan of Smog. Favorite part of weigh-in is the official weigh-ins. I like the drama. I like hearing the families behind me get excited or go back and forth with their opponents. Family. I think that's an interesting atmosphere. We always see fighters argue and pump their fists and this and that, but when you see families get involved, it's definitely an interesting scene. Do you think Conor will fight Frankie next? Answer that. I do not. I absolutely do not. Frankie said he'll fight Conor in any weight class, but I don't think that fight happens. Who else closes Chael's videos? That's rude. Think Walker is better than Reyes? That is an interesting question. I have no idea, mostly because there's so little tape out there on Johnny Walker in the UFC. He's won so quickly and violently. So I don't know. Johnny Walker, of course, has handfuls of Corey Anderson. I spoke with Corey Anderson at Mike Tyson's ranch a couple weeks ago. You should check that out on our YouTube page. And Corey Anderson was fired up, said he is the one. He thinks the UFC doesn't want him to win. The UFC doesn't want him to fight for the title. So I was excited for that fight, but after interviewing Corey Anderson, I have that circled on that card. Yes, obviously the BMF title is on the Madison Square Garden card. Jorge Masvidal and Nate Diaz on that card. We got Kelvin Gastelum, Darren Till, but Johnny Walker and Corey Anderson has a lot of title implications. And of course, Mike Heck is joining us right now. We got a lot of questions. What do you think of this? Well, you can save your prediction for the preview show, but just talk about this main event, because like we were talking about before, and of course, speak with Mike Heck, Boston native here for Flow Combat. The last few Boston cards have had title fights or Conor McGregor or Sonnen and Shogun, two legends of the sport. Now we got Weidman and Reyes. Interesting fight, Weidman coming up. Is this the right fight for a Boston card from a Boston native's perspective?
It's tough from a Boston native's perspective. I mean, who else are you going to put up there right now? From a Boston native's perspective, if you're not going to do a title fight, I think this is probably the most interesting matchup you can make. Weidman is a former champion. He is a guy with a big name. You know, it's an interesting story that he's finally making the move up to 205. I was even talking to Wonderboy yesterday, and Wonderboy's like, yeah, he should have moved up to 205 like years ago. So even he agrees that this is the right move. And Reyes is just a guy that just kind of burst onto the scene. He was sort of a highlight reel darling on the scene, getting viral videos. And he's all of a sudden won all these fights in the UFC, gets put in this big spot against a former world champion. I like the matchup. It's super intriguing to me. And I'm really interested to see how much better Weidman can look being up at, close to his natural weight.
Yeah, and he came in at 204. We got a lot of comments asking if we think his power will translate. I don't know. We've seen, of course, Thiago Santos looked great at light heavyweight. Anthony Smith has looked great at light heavyweight, but then we saw what happened with Luke Rockhold. So it's not guaranteed success. Of course, Jacare has a fight coming up against John Blachowicz on the UFC Sao Paulo card. But definitely an interesting take. What do you make of Dominick Reyes' chances, though? It's a weird fight for him to take because Weidman is coming up. He's not ranked in the light heavyweight division. He is a former champion, but at middleweight, big name. I was looking at his record. Dominick Reyes hadn't even made his professional debut yet when Chris Weidman beat Anderson Silva. Said so. Dominick Reyes, I think his words were "idols become rivals," something like that. So, what do you make of Dominick Reyes' rise, his ascension? Maybe the light heavyweight division is now more exciting than ever, and he's right there at the top. What do you make of his rise and his chances against Chris Weidman? Do you want to give a prediction? But just what do you make of Dominick Reyes as a fighter?
I think Dominick Reyes is a great fighter. I think his mentality in the fight game is unbelievable. He even mentioned it at the scrum yesterday. Very cerebral, the way he approaches his career. Like, he picks the right fights. He doesn't just dive into certain situations. He makes sure that the risk-reward factor is where it needs to be. So the way I look at Reyes in this fight right now is I don't think he has a ton of pressure on him, because even if Weidman beats him, he's still got. He's in this division where he can come back and rattle off 2-3 more wins, and he's right back up there. I think Weidman needs this a lot more than Reyes needs it, and there's just so many other factors in play here. I think if Weidman does win, he's probably next. He's probably getting the title shot. I don't care what Johnny Walker or Corey Anderson or any of those guys do. He's probably fighting for the belt. Reyes is in a little bit of a different situation. It's hard to justify him, especially if Johnny Walker goes out and knocks out Corey Anderson, or if Corey Anderson dominates him for 3 rounds. So I think this fight means more to Weidman. Obviously, Reyes wants to win it, but I think even if Reyes loses, he can bounce back. There's still plenty of time for him to develop and get up to that place.
Yeah, I think what Dominick Reyes said, he was like an analyst as Pizza Carroll comes in. We're talking about the main event, but I know you want to talk about a little fight between Jillian Robertson and Macy Barber, correct?
I do. Both great.
Is that right? That's your professional take?
Yeah, they are. They're fantastic.
Okay, I'll ask both of you guys as Oscar first. Macy Barber talked a lot at Media Day, and not a lot of it was about Jillian Robertson. No. All of it was about Paige Van Zandt. Yeah. Smart move to keep that name connected to her, or I don't want to say dumb, but not the thought process you wanted to. Ill-advised take going into a fight against probably her not even probably, definitely her toughest test to date.
Well, listen, Paige Van Zandt's a very discussable woman, and she's obviously very high profile, despite she's very good in the cage as well, obviously, but maybe she's not got the most winningest record. But I think if you look at Macy and you look at Paige, they're both very marketable, and I think that fight itself, even if it's not the highest ranked, would probably get more attention than if Macy fought someone, high up in the top 10.
What do you make of that? I'm sure you've seen the back and forth between them online. Yeah. Do you like the approach that Macy Barber's taking with like posting these DMs and all this stuff?
Yeah, did you see that? That was a bit cool. Well, yeah, I suppose I do. I like a bit, anything in this sport that's mildly unique at this point is enjoyable. I like characters, I don't like people showing up and throwing an inflatable snake around or whatever like that, but I enjoy like people who's got like some charisma and uniqueness to them. I think Macy's trying that. I mean, sometimes it might come across as a little bit forced, but yeah, I enjoy it.
So, Mike, same question. Macy called herself, she had no problem being the bad guy. I don't know if that's her role right now, but what do you make of her media day yesterday? What do you make of Macy's media day yesterday, where she didn't talk a lot about her actual opponent, talked a lot about Paige Van Zandt?
It's not just the media day, it's the entire build-up to the fight. Like, she hasn't mentioned Jillian's name at all. And that's what makes things interesting. I don't know if this is just a calculated move on her part. And I think the Paige Van Zandt thing's great because if she wins, she could still get that fight and you could push it. And even if she loses, you could still make that fight and she can get it anyways. So I think her approach has been super interesting. I hope she's not overlooking Jillian Robertson. She says she's not overlooking her, despite not mentioning her throughout this whole thing. But Robertson's no joke, and she wants this fight bad. This is a fight she's wanted for a long time. She's kind of surprised that she got it so quickly. I like the matchup. I like the way Barber's kind of approaching it because we get to talk about this and answer these types of questions. So, but if Barber wins, off she goes.
It's she has that countdown. Famously, she has that countdown on her phone. She wants to break John Jones's record for youngest UFC champion. She still has a little ways to go. She's not going to get a title shot. If she does fight for the title, it'll probably be 2021. I would imagine maybe early 2021 if she keeps winning. But you never know. She might talk herself into a title fight. She did say she could beat Weili Zhang and Valentina Shevchenko if offered today. She'd fight them tomorrow, and she would like both of their chances. I don't know if that's the case, but she has to get through Jillian Robertson. But have you been impressed with her, outside of what she's been saying, outside of her trash talk and what she's doing to build up rivalries? Have you actually been impressed with her inside the octagon? You don't have to you can save some of this for the preview show, but you can keep it short.
She's been very chaotic in there and very fun to watch. So in that sense, I've been very impressed with her. She's treated the opponent she's had accordingly. But this is the big litmus test for her. We're going to see how good Macy Barber really is. Can she be a star? Can she be someone that can really climb up this division? This is the kind of fight we're going to find out the answer to that question tomorrow night.
All right. Oscar, what fights from Paige make you think she's legit? This is a question from Brad. I'm not going to pronounce this last name. There's a lot of vowels in there, and there's a lot of consonants and not a lot of vowels. There's a Z next to a Y. Sure, I don't know. I'm not going to try. Wow, Oscar coming in with his British tomfoolery. But what fights has Paige had that makes you think she's legit from this commenter?
Ironically enough, it's actually one she lost. It was against Rose, right, where she got beaten up, but she just showed absolute toughness and grit. I mean, I don't think she's going to win a title necessarily, but I think I think her looks make people underestimate her as a fighter. She's obviously a very tough woman.
Yeah, and she was a strawweight. Now she's at flyweight. Strawweight's obviously one of the deeper female divisions in the UFC. I don't think there's any arguing that. I think the addition of the flyweight has taken from both, but
featherweight's got a lot to debate there.
That's what I was about to say. I think featherweight is very low, obviously, but flyweight. I thought you had said flyweight, but flyweight's I think taken a lot. But flyweight's obviously probably I don't think there's an argument more shallow than strawweight right now. So maybe Macy and Paige in this weight class could reach the championship sooner. Am I wrong there?
Well, they're obviously going to push Zhang pretty hard because they want that Chinese market, right? So it would make sense to put her in a fight with a marketable, like a hot woman basically, who gets lots of attention, that she could beat dominant, and it would make her look like this crazy hardcore champion. So Macy or Paige could probably, as sad as it is, could probably walk back into a title shot if she just played her cards right at the right time. She'd come back in one fight and she could get a Zhang fight because it would make Zhang look good. So,
what about flyweight though? Like, say Paige comes and wins, she could just fight Valentina, right? Because who's Valentina supposed to fight right now? I assumed it would be Callan Chukagian. Now who's
or Joanne Calderwood?
Yeah, Joanne Calderwood.
I don't think they're going to give it to Caitlin.
Even though Callan's already beat her.
Yeah.
Let's not forget too. Caitlin was offered As far as I know, Caitlin was offered the title shot against Valentina, but she was getting married. So they had to postpone it. That's why they pulled Liz Carmouche from the fight with Roxanne.
I think they were really happy about that. It's like, she's getting married, mate. Like, you got to give her like a little bit of leeway.
But we're having these conversations. That's at least the good thing. Strawweight, flyweight, bantamweight, featherweight, maybe not so much. That division might not even be real in a year. But any other fights you see on this card? And how about Derron Win? Got a lot of comments about Derron Win. What do you make of his chance? I'll start with Mike. You've tried to interview him a few times. We've seen him. I've seen him walking around. I've seen him walking around the hotel, looking slim, looking fit. What do you make of Derron Win's chances here at UFC on ESPN 6?
I actually interviewed Darren Stewart yesterday, and Darren said something that really stuck out to me. He said, Derron Win reminds me of me when I first got in the UFC. So Darren Stewart feels like he has the experience. I think the evolution and the growth we saw in the Bavon Lewis fight. I think that Darren feels that gives him a distinct advantage in this fight. But Derron is just an exciting guy. He's going to come after you and he's going to throw bombs. So Darren Stewart had an interesting prediction. He said he's going to submit Derron Win off his back. So be interested to see.
Oscar's. I wish our audience could see Oscar's face when Mike Heck just said that. But what do you make of Derron Win against Darren Stewart? Derron Win, of course, had that really exciting debut against Eric Spicely. Eric Spicely took the fight on short notice. I think it was one of the earlier fights on the card, and Dana White was tweeting, that's how you make a debut. Like, welcome back, Eric Spicely. A lot to live up to after that. I believe that was the South Carolina? Yeah, the Greenville card. So what do you make of Derron Win's chances against Darren Stewart?
I got to watch him in probably the biggest night of his life when he fought on the Chuck Tito undercard. I think if you are associated with Daniel Cormier, you have credibility. That's what I think of him. I think he's got the potential to be amazing.
And let's not forget, Darren Stewart knocked out Eric Spicely with a jab. And Derron Win hit him.
Darren Stewart's English, isn't it? So he's good too.
Yeah, I believe he fought on that UFC 238 card. I think there was a little bit of an eye poke or something in there.
He came out to some grime music. That's what I remember.
Didn't he come out to? Did he come to Skepta? Yeah, he did come out to Skepta because I was talking to him about it off camera, and he was like, "I'm glad someone caught that." But yeah, anyone that walks out to Skepta is officially on Team Jose.
Are they?
Yeah.
They probably won't do that if they knew that was the case. They'd probably
Man.
someone else.
All right. Let's see what we got in our comment section. BMF title, DCI pokes. What do you make? All right, I'll ask you guys this. BMF title. Oscar, you were at that press conference.
Yeah.
You flew, I think you flew from?
I flew from Vancouver to London, landed, saw the announcement of the press conference, got back on a plane to go to New York because, I don't want to kill myself, but apparently death is on the way to me. I was there. What about it?
I was not there. I watched it live, and I think the whole time I was like, what's going on here? Is this a real press conference? What are these questions happening? For someone that was on the scene, what was that press conference like?
I mean, I love hearing questions about fighters' diets and trying to provoke a viral moment to get your name out there and become a sensation yourself instead of like asking fighters questions about that. It was frustrating. I mean, I'm not going to rip on the other media as much as I wouldn't mind doing that. But it was. I think people were like, oh my God, these two trash talkers is going to be amazing. It's like pretty clear that they have lots of respect for each other. So the reaction, like, oh, that was pretty boring. So I don't know what you expected. Really, yeah. They were always going to be pretty cordial. And yeah, maybe they got asked some dumb questions that you could have asked some questions that would have provoked them to say stuff. But it was always going to be like that. The best thing was Masvidal's suit. That's pretty badass.
Yeah, I mean, what's his name from Scarface? I've only seen that movie once, and I don't care to see that movie ever again. Ew. What shirt are you wearing right now?
Oh, this is a wonderful branded T-shirt.
Sure. But I want to touch on slightly what Oscar said. He said that a lot of people, there's a lot of trash talk. People were expecting this, I saw people tweeting like don't let kids watch this press conference. Don't allow don't have this on speakerphone because you don't know what they're going to say. You saw the poster. It's like a parental advisory thing. And then like Oscar said, they were cordial with each other. They're cool. This isn't the type of fight you're getting a lot of trash talk.
But sorry to jump in, but let's say this. That's the whole thing about this fight, right? That's why it's got interest, because these two are the two realest dudes in the UFC. So you don't need them to fake the beef. You don't need them to do that, because when they get in the cage, it's going to be a fucking fight. It's going to be sick.
Sick. So as Mike Heck, your thoughts on what Oscar said? He obviously was there. We all kind of knew what was going to happen. When people were saying, don't let your kids listen, Didn't really know what that was about because they were going to be cool with each other. They didn't say nothing to each other. They said, this man's going to try to kill me. I'm going to try to kill him. Real quickly, I see a little bit of rumblings, but what do you make of this whole dynamic between Masvidal and Nate Diaz not being what people are expecting maybe?
Well, first of all, I just don't know if I can top what Oscar just said there, because that was passion personified. He jumped in at the right time. It just stole my thunder, which is okay with me. I mean, the press conference went exactly the way I expected it to go. I think I think having this fight, the build up to that fight is just gonna. The intrigue of them just looking at each other face to face, I think that's going to build the fight. Like, I like how there's no trash talk. I like how there's going to be no Monster Energy cans flying around press conferences
Well, that's
or
fine.
stuff
If
like
that happens.
I mean, it was that moment, but I like it when it happens once, not every single time. So,
Well, going off that, I think, look, like the sport is definitely in the entertainment era, right, where people are making characters, people are provoking rivalries and feuds to get more attention. So while that can be fun, it's starting to get like that's the new norm, is these big fights have a bit of personal edge to it. So when you get a big fight that has none of that and it's just two dudes who are like, I'm good, you're good, let's find out who's good. I love it. Same with Holloway when Holloway fought Ortega. It's like it's just two badass guys like, oh, they're going to throw down. No need for beef. That's more fun now.
And Dominick Reyes is back, so we'll get more from Oscar and Mike in a little bit. Always love having those guys on. But Dominick Reyes, one half of our main event, fights Chris Weidman. Welcomes Chris Weidman to the light heavyweight division here in Boston. Had a lot to say about the California State Athletic Committee's new weight cut rules, but more on that later. Let's see what Mr. Reyes hits scale with. .203 for Mr. Reyes. Our main event is official. Chris Weidman and Dominick Reyes hit the light heavyweight mark. I'm going to put you guys down for 1 second. I'm going to go refill my delicious cup of liquid dirt, a.k.a. decaf coffee, and I'll be right back. And we're back. People asking for a picture of my decaf coffee. Don't worry about it. Greg Hardy, blah, blah, blah. All right, what do you guys want to talk about? We got a little bit of a break. What do you think of Greg Hardy's chances? I think Greg Hardy is, say what you will about him, I don't want to have a comment on it, but I think if he wasn't great, Lynch, you can weigh in if you want. I think if it wasn't Greg Hardy, we'd look at him differently, but he's a former NFL player. I think if he wasn't Greg Hardy, we would be kind of praising this individual for the moves he's making, like goes to ATT right away, doesn't start in like a local gym, takes the amateur circuit, does a few fights, goes to the Contender Series, gets a few fights there, is now in the UFC, and is not thrown to the wolves right away, is being built slowly. So I think if he wasn't Greg Hardy, we would really be speaking about this situation a lot differently, given the fact that he is, he's doing, it seems like he's doing the right steps. It's just, if it wasn't Greg Hardy, we would be praising this man. And I'll get Lynch's comments on that in a second. Looks like we're about to have Manny Bermudez weigh in. So away we go, back to the weigh-ins.
He's still working. You didn't fire him. I said he's still working. You didn't fire him. The bad intel. Yeah.
Manny Bermudez up next. All right, what do you guys want to chat about? Let's wait for Manny. Manny, a lot of people interested in Manny Bermudez weigh-in, of course. Struggled with weights in the past. He will need the towel, so avert your eyes. Up a weight class, and he needs the towel. So avert your eyes if you don't want to see anything, because who knows with this side view. I apologize for those in advance. Someone says, Manny, cut your ears off, you'll lose 5 pounds. That is very mean. $148. Manny Bermudez misses weight by 2 pounds. Moves up a weight class and still misses weight. So you got to wonder about his future in the UFC. I believe moves up in weight, still misses weight. I believe he was the one that had to make it a 140 catch weight, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, against Casey Kenny in Anaheim. He was supposed to fight Casey Kenny at 135 a few days before. They moved it to 140 catch weight because Manny was struggling to make the weight. Casey Kenny, of course, took it. Got some hinted at a little bonus he got from the UFC top brass for accepting the fight. But after that, Manny Bermudez had to move up in weight to 145 and still misses weight by 2 pounds. So you got to wonder if he doesn't win on Friday. You got to wonder if he's on the chopping block after back-to-back situations like this. Just a bummer to see. Looks big enough to be lightweight. You're not wrong. Again, Manny Bermudez cut your ears off. You could have made weight. Guys, that's mean. Knew it didn't look good. What do we have here? Mike Heck joining us again. He had a little side thing.
He's not cutting. Manny Bermudez just missed weight at 148. He's not cutting anymore. So I heard about an hour ago that this might happen, and then I think like him weighing in at this point, people were kind of questioning with the towel and everything. But I was like, I think he's just gonna miss, and he did. So Manny's gonna weigh 148. He's not gonna cut anymore. So I'm not sure what's gonna happen next at this point, but obviously, Jose here will let you know. And
As of right now, Manny Bermudez is not going to be cutting any more weight, correct?
that's what we were just told by an official, and one member of the commission just told me the same thing. So
You have it. So we were speaking about it while I was speaking at James about this. He did not weigh in. I was projecting, as the youths of America say. But Manny Bermudez is obviously supposed to fight Casey Kenny at UFC 241 at 135. Obviously, like a day before, they made it a catchweight. I believe it was at 140. I was there. I can't remember the exact number. Casey Kenny, of course, accepted it. Hinted at a little bonus he got for taking the fight. Said it wasn't because of him. Wink, wink, that the fight was changed. Manny, of course, I believe missed weight against Benito Lopez on that Phoenix card I was at, too. So back-to-back fights, struggling to make 135, had to go to 145, and now comes in 2 pounds over. Is now no longer cutting weight. You got to wonder if he comes up short on Friday, if his UFC career is on the line right now.
it might be at this point. I mean, he's had some experience at 55 in his career. Like, he's fought at 35, 45, 55. The fact that he made 35 is just unbelievable to me. So I thought, he even said at the media day yesterday, he felt much better at 45. He felt, didn't feel as drained. He was actually eating and hanging out and enjoying the week a little bit more. But man, I don't know if him just being at home made him a little too comfortable, the whole thing, because he couldn't explore anything. That was one of the things. I can't walk around and explore because I know everything already. So it's nothing fascinating to me. Unreal.
It's that could be something. I don't know. Only Manny Bermudez knows. It's a weird situation. We're just speaking. You were in Anaheim, correct? Oscar Willis joins us again. You were at the Anaheim card. Manny Bermudez was supposed to fight Casey Kenny at 135. They make it a catchweight to 140. He also missed weight against Benito Lopez in February. Again, another card you were at, and that Phoenix card. Of course, Oscar Willis remembers all of the cards he's been to because that's the type of man he is, a hard worker and a man of the people. But he misses weight both back-to-back times at 135. Now he's going to go up to 145 and comes in 2 pounds over for his featherweight fight. You have to wonder. Mike just said no longer cutting any more weight. That's it. 148 is what he's going to be at. You got to wonder if he loses on Friday, if this is it for Manny Bermudez in the UFC.
Yeah, and listen, this isn't an official fact of the matter, but you can sort of observe things, right? So everyone today has been basically underweight, which suggests the scales are kind of wonky by about a couple of pounds. So for him to be at 148 with the scales giving him a 2 pound swing, that's really not good. And then also, he wasn't sweating. He hadn't just come out of the sauna. He was bone dry, so he hasn't obviously just... Yeah. So and then, Matt Rantner just told us that he's not going to cut any more weight and stuff. So I think in the UFC, it totally depends situation to situation, but you'll get a lot of credit if you just work your nuts off to try and make something happen. So yeah, I don't think he's done himself any favors today.
Yeah, I remember vividly when Brian, I don't know if you were there yet covering, but UFC 214, which was Jones DC 2 in Anaheim.
No, I wasn't there.
So I remember vividly Brian Ortega took the whole 2 hours to weigh in and walked out dripping wet in a towel. I was getting choked up thinking about how sucked in his beautiful blue eyes were. Said he was afraid he had to shave his head to make weight.
He came in, he was in a towel, dripping wet. Oh, listen, this is an AMSR or whatever it is.
Listen, guys, we're all friends here. Say just because.
Your hair's looking real friendly.
I'm gonna go fight Oscar real quick. I'll be right back. But so some of us get choked up thinking about Brian Ortega. Some of us don't. It is what it is.
The first time I ever interviewed Brian Ortega, this is not a joke. He was looking the other way, and then he turned to me, and I literally.
And you, as the women of the world say, you just died.
I just died. No, I literally saw him. I went, "My God, your eyes are blue." And he went, "What?" I went, "What?" And it was a really awkward start to the interview. But there you go. He's a very handsome man. I always want. Never mind.
Did you hear Dreamweaver behind you, like Wayne in Wayne's World when he looked at Cassandra for the first time?
Dun, 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 dun.
All right, let's see what we got for questions. All right, not related to UFC Boston, DC or Rogan on commentary? One of the commenters asked us.
As in, which do I prefer? I think Joe Rogan has a lot going on in his life, so he's not as attentive to the sport as he once was, and I think that
is a very nice way of putting it.
I'm a pretty good guy at lying to people about what I really mean. Yeah, he's not as good.
Mike, your take, DC or Rogan?
At this point, DC's a better color commentator, but Rogan's voice is so synonymous with all the big moments in the UFC. I think that familiarity kind of draws people in, especially the casual fans.
Do you remember a while? I think it's like 2016. Rogan's contract was like up, and he renegotiated. At the time, I thought he can't possibly leave. Like the product really suffer. I don't necessarily feel that strongly about it now. I think like they've really done well to, like, because you want an analysis with the passion, and I think DC does that.
And he said many times that those fight companions he does, he would rather do that.
Well, I'd rather be drunk and or high when I was watching the fights as well, but Joe Rogan's just in a position where he can do that.
But I'm sure I'm sure he's making really good money to say cage side and call the fights. So.
I think the glaring one, and you and I, Oscar and I were both at Edmonton for UFC 240, and we were listening to the commentary backstage. Rogan was not on his game for that Chris Cyborg Felicia Spencer fight. Chris Cyborg actually called him out, and Joe Rogan's like, "What are you talking about? Like this and that." But you go back and watch that fight, Joe Rogan was not on.
Well, if to put it in perspective, like anyone who does anything in public gets like just mercilessly shit on by fans all the time, as any of us in the media will tell you. But to get to the point where like I think John Anik even addressed the criticism shows how much criticism they must have got for them to actually even address it. And and it was deserved as well. He was not brilliant that night.
Yeah, and Mike, you shook your head right away when I brought up that Spencer fight, so I know you have something to say about that.
Yeah, I agree with everything you guys just said. He was bad. Obviously, there's a personal vendetta there, and it's tough to call.
Hot take.
I mean, obviously, those two have a little personal beef going on, and it's tough to separate those two when you're in a position like that and you're watching a fight. Like the adrenaline's pumping.
But it wasn't even like the personal vendetta. He thought it was 5 rounds. It was 3 rounds.
Yeah,
like, that's
that too.
basic mistakes, and that's what I meant earlier about like he's not in the sport as much as he was.
Yeah, because I mean, when you look at Cyborg, you just immediately people who aren't like as tapped into the sport think she's the champion.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was an off night for him. We'll see how the rest goes, but I'm sure he knows this. I'm sure he hears this criticism at this point. So.
Oscar, question for you from our commenters: is Conor fighting Frankie in December?
I think the thing I like about early morning weigh-ins is like the real camaraderie people have here, and it's always a lot of drama.
And there you have it, folks. And there you have it. Oscar of the Mac Life's official statement is he of whether Conor will fight Frankie is he enjoys the official weigh-ins. But we're getting Joe's just an MMA fan with a dream job. DC sucks. That's not very nice. One of the commenters said if Manny Bermudez cut his ears off, he would have made weight. That's a little mean.
See, that's what we're talking about. A bit more effort.
It's a bit more effort. I remember the days when we started RIP Brian Callen years ago. Okay. DC, Bisping, and Felder are really good. Dom gets annoying at times. I like Dominick Cruz's takes, actually. I think he gets a little too into it in that with like the breaking down what's happening, and you might lose some of it. But I actually enjoy Dominick Cruz's
I think I enjoy his I enjoy the fact that he's almost too nerdy and like it clashes with Rogan. I enjoy their little tiffs.
Like if you've been to pay-per-view media days, Dominick Cruz walks around with a notepad interviewing fighters about like their stuff. So
spying on Yo-Yo Rodriguez's media scrum the other day. He's just like sitting there like staring like what's he saying? It's great.
All right. What do you make of Anthony Johnson moving back to heavyweight? That's a comment we just got. I'm very excited. I was at that Dominance MMA media day, and Anthony Johnson said watching Stipe and Daniel Cormier's second fight made him want to fight again. But since up until then he quit MMA, said he really quit again that second fight against Daniel Cormier. Everyone wants him to fight Francis first. He says, I'm not fighting Francis unless it's for the title because I don't want to just be another fight. That fight is so hyped, he wants it to mean something. So I'll start with Mike. What do you think of Anthony Johnson coming back at heavyweight?
Doesn't hurt. It certainly doesn't hurt.
I mean, it's going to hurt.
Yeah, it's going to hurt somebody, but I mean, I think him and Francis is like the only fight you can make right now. I mean, obviously, like, who's he? And I like Anthony Johnson. If I said this to his face, he'd probably smack me, but like, who's he to just say I'm fighting for the belt right away? Like, you've been gone for so long. Like, you need to come back and make a statement before you fight for the belt at this point. So him and Francis, like, who is not going to just be so jacked up to see that fight? That's like a dream matchup, in that division.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, right? Well, first of all, heavyweight's kind of after Francis. There's no like. So DC and Steve are probably going to rematch. Then you got Francis, and then it's like open season. So Rumble's probably seeing that bit like name value, come in, murder some, like him versus like Junior Dos Santos. Yeah.
I think the fights you can make, we got obviously, I Alexander Volkov versus JDS coming off that Moscow card. I think we got the Derek Lewis, Blagoy Ivanov, and Madison Square Garden. I think if Derek Lewis wins and Francis wants to stay active, they might run that back because that first fight was so bad. I think that's one of the few fights Francis would want to take to rectify a loss. Because like you said, like Oscar said, who else is out there besides Francis Ngannou?
That's the fight you do. Trust me.
Anthony Johnson, Greg Hardy.
Think how big that fight would be.
Oh God.
Rumble right now.
You never know.
I think it's Hardy versus Ty. Ty Tuivasa is the fight.
I think that's the fight to make Ty and Greg Hardy.
No.
Rumble's not going to be decided first anyway.
It's true. That is a good
Get a
point.
layup. He's lost a lot of fights. He's a young guy. They go to Australia all the time. That's a big market for them. He's not going to fight someone that's dangerous like Rumble. I say if you're going to bring Rumble back, how many fights are you realistically getting out of him? Probably not a ton. He's not young. Hardy's a big name. Trust me. I think that's one. Trust me, flying under the radar. If Hardy wins this weekend, don't be surprised.
Actually, he's Rumble's represented by Ali, and he's by the Cowards, so that'd be even like turf war, baby. Let's go. But no, I think first of all you gotta Rumble obviously is coming back because he wants to make as much money as he can. And it's like we just said, he doesn't want to fight Francis unless for a lot of money. Well, if he comes back, he might just over-negotiate himself right away. They can't come to a deal, so he might not fight again. And, he's got to go back in the USADA testing pool. And that's not to say, he won't pass tests, but to say that takes time. You got months to just pass. So let's get on with it,
Greg Hardy will beat Ty and Arlovsky. Anthony Johnson would decapitate Greg Hardy. So, the heavyweight division is a little murky right now. Outside of Francis, there's no question he's the number one contender, but he wants to stay active. And if DC rematches Stipe, it's going to be next year. Francis wants to be active. Who else is there for Francis to fight? I think the Derek Lewis fight's the one he make just to rectify a loss.
He wants to fight in December, right? He wants to fight in that Vegas card. So
there's no one out there.
I mean, look, no one likes seeing it in MMA, but. Actually, Greg Hardy said he wanted to. Oh no, they can't do Greg Hardy versus Ngannou. What I'm talking about. But we don't really like tune-up fights or stuff like that in MMA. But in boxing, they'll let a fighter stay active by putting him against a real low-ranked guy and just sort of tide them over until the next big fight. Could do that with Francis. Just give him some heavyweight who wants to make a big splash and hope nothing too bad happens.
He could if say that JDS Volkov fight's fast. It's over like that. Give him, if say Volkov wins, they've not fought, right? If I'm not mistaken, Volkov has been on tear. He was 3 minutes away from beating Derek Lewis or whatever it was before he got knocked unconscious. So that was madness.
If you put Francis on that December card too, you have 3 title fights there. The card's already loaded, so he'd be the first fight on the main card or the last fight of the ESPN prelims too.
He's in Vegas, right? So it makes sense to put him on there.
So I mean, you could put him against anybody at this point. It's a showcase fight for him more than anything.
Francis and Ngannou in a 3-round fight. It's not like it would reach that way. But I said that against Derek Lewis. When's the last time we fought in Vegas? Was it that Derek Lewis card? That Doe's fight? Yeah. That happened, and then he fought Curtis Blades. That was 226. That was Stipe DC 1. Yeah, then he fought in China, fought in Phoenix, and then he was supposed to fight in Las Vegas at UFC 239, and then I think Robbie Lawler Tyron Woodley got hurt, and so they pulled the card off the Minneapolis card and moved Francis JDS to the main event in Minneapolis. So if I am remembering correctly, but Francis Ngannou, the last time we saw him in Las Vegas was not the best fight. Our old coworker Mark Ramondi actually had to do a shoey because of that fight, because he lost a bet with Sean Al-Shadi about whether that fight would last a round.
Did he spit or piss in it?
If you want to watch it, you can go to Instagram.com/MMA Fighting DOTCOM and watch the entire video. It is a treat.
Or alternatively, go to Instagram/The Mac Life Official to get your real MMA news. No.
Wow, cold-blooded. Tell me again, who's your idol?
My idol? Obama.
That was a very.
I'm just gonna play both sides.
That was a very rapid 180 from Oscar Willis, going from Tony Montoya as his idol to Obama.
Actually, the only time I've ever watched Scarface was when I was 15. It was 1 in the morning, and I was like, I watched this film. I didn't realize it was so long, so I was like,
I realized this movie is terrible and you never want to watch it again?
I'll be honest, I was like, oh, it's a Greek tragedy at the end, and I turned it off and went to bed.
So your take from Scarface was it was a Greek tragedy? Oscar Willis is truly an artistic individual.
And fucking all that.
I'm blown away.
This is truly breaking developments right now.
Have you seen this movie called The Prestige?
Once or twice.
It's good, isn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
I watched it on a plane. It's all right. It's one of those movies I was watching. I was like, am I enjoying this? And then the big thing at the end happens. You're like, oh yeah, it was good.
DC should retire. I have a feeling Stipe will beat him again from Cody Z21. That's a little mean. What is going on? A lot of Brennan Schaub comments all of a sudden. And Stipe shouldn't take the DC fight. Too many eye pokes.
Give my enemy Schaub tickets because it's too much.
That's mean, man. What the right? So many Brennan Schaub comments all of a sudden. I don't understand what's happening right now. A lot of people just hating on. No, I didn't mention Brennan Schaub once.
I love how the guy said Scarface is a classic's name is Rocky 5.
Rocky 5, really? That's like saying my name is Terminator 3. Just picking the worst one.
Is that the one with the female Terminator?
Yeah, the one that was just like hogwash.
Codwash.
Hogwash. Come on now. Let's go, Chief.
Sharp literally paid like $5 in the chat. Yeah, fact. Who can beat John Jones?
That is Anthony Johnson said he moved back down to light heavyweight to fight John Jones, though. I do that. Got some movement, so we're going to have to get back to the weigh-ins and stop talking about movies. Shaw versus Francis. Oh, God. Whenever I need a laugh, I watch Joe Rogan felling Shaw to hang it up. Wow, I think you mean telling, but that's not very nice. Who's next for Ryan Hall? That is a good question. I know our cameraman extraordinaire, Casey Leiden, wants Jeremy Stevens to fight Ryan Hall just because it's two drastically different people, but we're up on the scale right now. That's what Tanner Bozer up. First fight takes Daniel Spitz, heavyweight. Powerful mullet going on right now. What is happening here? 247.5 for Tanner Bozer. Well, don't forget the scale. 5 seconds. Why do people want Brandon Schaub to fight Francis Ngannou so bad? Of course, it's Jose Youngs here with the MMAfighting.com live stream of the official weigh-ins of UFC on ESPN 6, UFC Boston, UFC Fight Night Boston, whatever you want to call it. We're here in Boston at the Hyatt Regency in lovely Cambridge, Massachusetts. I think there's 4 people left, 3 people left. I lost track.
Barber, Robinson. What else we got here?
We got Barber, Robinson, and Derron Win.
Derron Win, yeah.
I believe those are the only ones we're waiting on, correct?
Yep.
We got 3 left. We got Barber, Jillian Robertson, and Derron Win. I said all those names correctly. A lot of people want Brendan Schaub to fight Francis Ngannou for whatever reason.
I wouldn't mind watching that.
Jose, MMA fighting is dead. No, it's not, man. We're here live at the UFC Boston official weigh-ins on the MMA Fighting YouTube page that just recently surpassed 1 million YouTube subscribers. So thanks, all.
Congratulations on that.
Yeah, thank you. Shout out to Casey and Esther for putting in the work. Of course, Ariel Hawani doing great work. Can't thank our old coworkers, Mark, Sean, Luke, all those guys. Steven.
Oh, he's new.
He's new.
Yeah, sorry, I got you confused with Donkey. He just left then.
They are being silly. Where's Macy? Yeah, she hasn't weighed in yet. I like your, what do you call it?
I saw Ginny Robinson walking through the lobby earlier. She looked like completely relaxed and cool and chilled. So.
Maybe she's so relaxed, she's like, what's the rush?
Possibly.
Yeah. Well, who do you think Aldo should fight next? Ooh, from Christian Wilson. Dude, I've been waiting for that. I want that rematch bad. It's not going to happen, but I want it. Jose, please get rid of your nose ring. Never. Every time someone tells me to get rid of it, I keep it in longer.
By the way, the reason why Esther Lynn's so cool is she's just super chill and she's talented and good at her job and all that good stuff. She's a cool woman. Someone asked, why is Esther Lynn so cool?
Esther Lynn is the greatest photographer in all of sports, not just MMA or boxing. Okay. But back to Jose Aldo. I would love to see him fight Conor at 155. That's not going to happen. We got that fun fight with Caden Zabit coming up. Fight maybe the winner or loser of that if they don't want to give someone a title. There's a lot of feather.
How Aldo was like, I'm going to go to boxing and then sign another contract.
He also said he wanted to go to 135. That's not happening.
Well, yeah, I mean that's just silly. But I think it's actually probably about. I think he'll be like Holloway. It wouldn't really work for him, but it's like he's always flirted with 155. It's like why not go up there and him versus Cowboy at 155? Because
ooh, but I think I want Cowboy to fight. your boy Connor.
Yeah.
I think that fight makes a lot of sense for both guys. I think Gaethje needs to fight the winner of Khabib and Tony. If he did, like, Connor could fight Poirier, Gaethje, or Cowboy. Any of those three, I wouldn't care.
Yeah.
Yeah. That official statement is, yeah. True story. Schaub is the smartest fighter alive. What is with the Brendan Schaub comments all of a sudden? What about Brendan Schaub versus Cejudo? Good God. Connor versus Bruce Buffer. Connor will call out Cejudo next. Okay.
Next Kevin Lee. What did Kevin Lee do to you?
I don't know, man.
Jose, will you admit it? Thomas is a D-bag.
I think he's talking about, is it Thomas the Tank Engine? I don't know, man. Thomas the Tank Engine was part of my childhood, so I can't make fun of Thomas the Tank Engine. Yeah, it was a fun chat until, well, that's just rude. Run it back with Aldo or take Gaethje. Yes, agreed.
Yeah, he did weigh in. He was on weight, and he didn't look stressed out about it at all. It was an easy cut for him, I think.
Yeah. So far, everyone's made weight, but Manny Bermudez came in 2 pounds over. We're waiting on Macy Barber, Jillian Robertson, and Derron Win. Those are the last three. Brendan Schaub live at Helium Comedy Club. Okay. Someone sent tickets to Anthony Johnson to fight Brendan Schaub at his comedy gig. Like if Anthony Johnson just walked in and goes, Schaub, we're fighting, and just fought him on the stage.
Get loads of views.
It would get a lot of views. Luke Thomas, what about him?
Just Luke Thomas.
When does Luke Sanders fight next? Random question, but I don't know off the top of my head. Looked great on the Phoenix card, though. Beat Henan Barrow. Kevin Lee sees holes in Habib's game. So I've heard. McNugget wants to fight Frankie. He knows the other guys would hurt him. What do you think of? When do you think Joanna's going to fight Wiley since her foot is not broken? Interesting question. Were you at the Tampa card, Oscar? So Joanna said leading up to that she did some Asian media on her media circuit, and according to her, I haven't seen the interview that she's been referencing. Is they asked if she would fight Wiley in Poland, in that 60,000 seat arena that KSW always sells out. So. Joanna and Jacek Wiley Zhang, could that sell out a 60,000 seat arena, stadium, whatever you want to call it, in Poland?
No, not 60,000. Israel and Rob, only just got near there.
And do you think, though, that number was do you think? I think they
I'm being a bit ignorant now. Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
When's the last time the UFC was in Poland? I can't remember off the top of my head. I believe Krokop fought in Poland when he rematched Gonzaga. Joanna, James, do you remember? Did Joanna fight Jessica Penne in Poland? Or was that somewhere else? I can't quite remember. This was back when they were doing a lot of those international fight pass cards for the European media. Jose, when are you going to start training MMA? Been there, done that. Got knocked out. Don't want to do it again. Conor McGregor versus Kenny Florian. Jesus. I don't see Conor beating Khabib at all. Tony have a good chance. Yeah, can't disagree with that. Conor beats Khabib in Moscow, calls the Pope to celebrate Christianity. All right. Apparently Tim Elliott commented, shh, KSW did 57,000. Why would Joanna not sell 60K?
Yeah, no, I think I was being a bit ignorant there. She probably could do that. Especially put Carolina on there as well, and got a big mainland Europe.
Someone's reminded me, Cerrone versus Till was in Poland apparently.
Yeah, it was. Artem was on that card as well. That's where he did the choo-choo motherfuckers.
That's true. Gregory Gillespie is future champ. Could be. Big test and Kevin Lee coming up on that Madison Square Garden card. 60,000 is a lot of people. Yep, you're not wrong. I bet my house on the air. Please tell me he had a good cut. As Oscar said, he didn't look bad on the scale. He's had rough weight cuts before, real quick turnaround, but he got on the scale in the sweat, didn't need the towel or anything, so looked great.
Smiling, looked happy, thumbs up, all that good stuff.
As they say in the industry, looked good getting off the bus.
Don't know what industry you work in because I've never heard that.
Yeah, right. You've never heard he looks good get off the bus?
I don't like talking about buses.
That's very fair. What's your shirt say again?
TheMacLife.com.
Right. That's a little rough. Joanna versus Penny was in Germany. That's right. I wonder why Gaethje never uses wrestling in his fights. He does the Granby roll and great takedown defense, but never implements takedowns. Well, when has he had time to do any His last 3 fights lasted, combined 1 round? Knocked out Barbosa in the first round, knocked out James Vick in the first round, beats Cowboy in the first round. It's not like he needed that wrestling. Against Poirier and Alvarez and Michael Johnson, possibly, but he himself said it's there, he just hasn't used it yet because it's a different style of fighting. He's getting those fighters out there quickly. Ngannou or Mighty Mouse? Oh, God. Jose, pray for Rogan. All right. It's not like he needs my prayers. I'm going to bet $1,000 on Jorge Masvidal. Good idea or no?
If you've got it.
There you have it. Jose, you should fight Dennis Segura. Don't know who that is. Any word on what happened to Pizzi? Ask him, man. I know what happened, but you can ask him. Check out his Twitter if you haven't. D-Claw Yair. Well, that's clever. When does the weigh-in end? It's supposed to be at 11, so you got 30 minutes left.
In theory, they could go, let's say someone misses weight and they want an extra hour, they could give him an extra hour, but it should be 11 o'clock.
Yeah, but Manny Bermudez is no longer weighing in, so Steven's eye poke Yair the first time. Steven eye pokes Yair this time, another no contest. God, don't put that evil into the world. Yair spits. Oh, that's rude. I was about to read that out loud. Don't want to do that. If Kevin Lee wins, should he get a top 5 opponent next, or him versus Hooker? Man, I didn't think of Kevin Lee versus the winner of Kevin Lee and Gillespie would be a fun fight for Dan Hooker, but I know our own. Paul Felder asked to fight Dan Hooker on Twitter, so Figueiredo fight Benavidez for the title. I bet it would be interim title. Could happen. Gaethje or Conor for Conor's return. Conor versus Edgar is a joke. I like both of those fights. Jose, are you more Mexican or more Irish? I am 50% Mexican. 25% Irish. There you go. How do you know I'm Irish? I guess maybe he's a fellow listener of the A side. As Conor McGregor once called me, I am a Hispanic Celt. Jose versus CM Punk. He'd still beat me, I'm not going to lie. If Zabit wins, Yair versus Zabit, we got a fight, question mark? I love that fight. Yair's already still eyes that fight. Nate Diaz versus submission over Masvidal. And this guy's profile is a weed leaf, so it makes sense. How many times?
Dude, you need to stop reading them out and cutting off halfway through.
Jose, just build the wall. Well, that's just mean. Figueiredo fight Benavidez for the title. This person has asked 3 times, and I've said I would love that fight. There's just nothing official. If it's going to be for the title, I bet it would be for an interim title, because I don't think Cejudo is going to drop down for either of those fights, no matter what Dana White says. CM Punk versus Luke Rockhold's chin. Good God. Gregor Gillespie is the NCAA Division I champion. Kevin Lee is a D2 wrestler. There are levels to this game. Yes, but you saw what happened with Kamaru Usman. I think he's a D2 or D3 wrestler. Fought Tyron Woodley, who was a D1 All-American. You want to read that one out, Mr. MacLife?
No.
Yeah, exactly.
It's very funny, guys.
Jose, if you are Mexican Irish, do you have a drinking problem? Yeah, I'm drinking decaf coffee. That's my problem. Hooker versus Poirier. Any thoughts? I love that fight, but Justin Poirier's not going to take that fight. Interesting question. Holloway versus Volkanovski. I think this fight is a banger. I like how Jeremy Stevens put it at media day or open works. I can't remember. It was back-to-back scrums. But he goes, after seeing how Max treated Frankie in that fight, I like Max against Volkanovski, and I like how he put that. It's hard to argue after watching Max tear. And yes, Volkanovski did 30-27 Jose Aldo across the board. Max Holloway in Brazil. Max Holloway also finished Jose Aldo in Brazil. So I favor Max. I don't know where Oscar stands on the Max versus Volkanovski line. I'll let him give his take. Oscar, your take. Checks his phone. I was trying to kill time.
I was listening to everything you're saying. I think Max needs to take a little bit of time off. I didn't think he looked that great against Frankie. I think he won it pretty easily, but I did wonder if he was maybe holding back because of some respect for Frankie. There's a couple of times I thought he heard him and he didn't go for the kill. I just wonder, man, like Max has had such a hellacious run. He's been, fighting so regularly. I wonder if Volkanovski's not just the fresher guy with a bit more of a head of steam. It's interesting. I mean, stylistically, you would say Max has probably got the output and the height and stuff to give Volkanovski problems, but I think that's probably a closer fight than some people are thinking.
5 rounds. We haven't seen Volkanovski in 5 rounds either, so a lot of
5 rounds in his sleep. So
he could probably do 25 rounds in his sleep. His cardio for days doesn't knock you out, kills you with bug bites. Volkanovski has shown to have that power. Interesting. Used to weigh what, like 200 pounds when he was
210.
Like 210 when he was doing rugby, and that's I believe the co-main event of that fight, right?
Yeah. So they're doing Colby Usman as the main, Max Volkanovski is the co-main, and then Amanda versus Durandamy is going to be the third fight.
Yeah, of course, Oscar will be there. He lives in Las Vegas, and I'll be there with MMAfighting.com. Esther and Casey should be there too. Jose, you are a very pretty man. Thank you. Jose, have you thought of acting? Because you are a very good-looking guy. Where's all this coming from? Why is there not a single girl here? Two females have already weighed in. Diaz versus Pettis, obviously rigged. Okay. Jose, send me location. I'm in Boston, my man. I believe that's a picture of, Anthony Joshua's profile. If you are Anthony Joshua, don't come after me. Hooker or Barbosa in the way. Decaf has more flavor than regular. That's just not true. 200. A lot of Volkanovski weighing 200. How far away is Jared Cannonier from a title fight? I think Israel said maybe one or two more, but
Israel Adesanya is like a Cannonier fan. Like I remember post fight at the after he fought Silva, he brought him up and he interviewed him. I interviewed him before his fight with Rob, and he was like, "Oh, I've got to beat Paulo, then it's Cannonier, and then one more at middleweight, and then I'm moving up to like heavyweight." So he wants to fight Cannonier. So I'd say Cannonier's probably a one win away.
I know Pete Carroll and I talked about this on the A side, but do you follow Jared Cannonier on Instagram? So he's very into the crystals. Like
he loves a bit of like energy in that, doesn't he? He had a crystal after.
It was pyrite, and he was carrying it around his neck to ward off negative energy and cleanse his soul. So he's at peak
that's the crystal you'd want for that, for sure. I mean, there's so many to choose on the market, but that's Pyrite's the one.
And if you go to his Instagram, there's like a video of him saying like shout outs to like Crystal Depot or whatever, and he had like a box of all these crystals. He had like a sage leaf for positive energy.
Rickest Rick, that's a great comment. Cannonier versus Romero, all about that.
Ooh, do they want Yoel Romero to knock off another contender on a 2-fight losing streak though?
He just didn't knock off a contender, did he?
But that wasn't on a 2-fight losing streak. That was on a 1-fight losing streak. A lot of people thought he won.
I'll watch Romero fight my mum. I just want to see him more active.
You were the journo that asked Costa about him and Romero just being large, sweaty men, weren't you?
Yeah, that was. I said, do you think they made this fight because you guys just look so good on a poster?
Well, you're not wrong. Jose, will Jones ever fight Adesanya? Duh. It's probably going to be 2021, though, because Israel Adesanya has some work to do at the middleweight division first. But I like that fight, just not right now. Rampage is looking super thick. Yeah, he's fighting a heavyweight against Fedor. I hate that, but it is what it is. Can Stephen Thompson beat Israel Adesanya? That is a fascinating question. I don't think so, but I like that fight. It won't happen, but I like that fight.
It's like the first time I've seen your comment section not just relentlessly hating on you, Jose. It's nice to see you finally.
We've come a long way. We've come a long way. Jose versus Ariel for the BMF title of the year. Why?
Against Khabib. Khabib would smash, man.
R.I.P. to that guy's mom. What do people think Romero is? Some kind of gatekeeper for middleweight? This dude is 43 for F6. So yeah, it's interesting. Romero can beat anyone in the middleweight division, and he's not invincible against Paulo Costa. Jose, why do you want Rumble versus Rockhold? I don't want Rumble versus Rockhold. Jose, do you think Fury got robbed? You were at Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder. Do you think he was robbed? Because I actually did score to draw.
No, I think he was robbed. I thought he was robbed. I was fuming after that. I still am. My Wi-Fi at home is Fury 1. That's my Wi-Fi name.
Dude, how long did it take you to change that?
I just changed it like the month after. I was so pissed off. Like, I just the story of all his redemption, and then he need, to get Sparks in the 12th and then just get up the way he did, and it's like, oh my god, he actually did it, and then he didn't, and it really irked me.
I think I had it 8 rounds to 4 Fury, but I think I had it to draw on the scorecards. Jose, does Walker deserve Jones with the win over Corey? And how do you think he fares against both men? Well, there's a lot of light heavyweight fights coming up. I think it really depends on who has the best performance right now. I think it's basically just a big trial. I don't know if you remember that UFC on Fox card where Shogun fought Brandon Vera and Machida fought Ryan Bader. It was basically best performance gets the next title shot. And I don't think any of them even got the next title shot, if I'm remembering correctly, because Shogun Vera was a banger of a main event. That was the UFC on Fox card. That one fight of the night. But then the co-main event is when Bader ran into Machida, knocked him out, and then bowed to him. So I think it's gonna be. I think it's gonna come down to who has the better performance. Jose is prettier than most of the ring girls. Where is this coming from? Tyson Fury or Braun Strowman? Well, the WWE superstar Tyson Fury. Biggest robbery of the year so far, Oscar? It's an interesting question. Luis Pena comes to mind. I don't think that was a massive robbery in his last fight. But what do you think has been the biggest robbery? Boxing, MMA, whatever you want to call it.
A girl stole my heart. No, I don't know.
That reminds me, side story. John Fitch was on the MMA Hour like months ago with Luke Thomas, and Luke goes, "What's the worst injury you've ever had?" And John Fitch thinks, he goes, "Probably heartbreak." And I was like, "Oh, now I'm sad." Now I'm just sad. Still 20 minutes left. Zombie Ortega, who you got? That is my favorite fight of the year. Pena was robbed.
Yeah, 20%.
Bermudez.
I hear everything today.
Bermudez versus Rosa is on.
Massive gossip, so I hear everything.
Bermudez versus Rosa is on, according to the UFC upper brass. Rosa is getting 20% of his purse. Not really a surprise there. Usually when fighters miss weight and they have that 20% dang on the front, they take it. But who was the one that fought Pereira in Vancouver? The
Canadian guy.
Justin Connolly. Like if you,
James Lynch on the ball there.
if you,
Because they called his fight.
yeah, fellow Canadian too. But like if you look at, like he comes in short notice against Michael Pereira, a fight a lot of people are hyped to watch. I think he's just gonna be on the a dummy to get lit up. Michael Pereira misses weight, so he gets 20 to 30% of that purse. Gets fight of the night, but because Pereira misses weight, he doesn't get a bonus, so he gets all so what Connolly gets all $100,000 plus 20%. Like, he went from getting a short notice fight to life-changing money in one night. Unbelievable.
Making fucking bank, bro.
Is that the Mac Life's official statement on this?
Yes, we make bank.
We make Kamaru versus Colby. I don't even want to think about that fight right now. Jose, do you speak Spanish? Not very well. Can read it well, though. Connolly is a legend. Connolly. Mike Perry versus Luque was a robbery. Interesting. Did you have Mike Perry?
I did have Mike Perry, actually. I did have Mike
One of
Perry.
the questions, what do you think has been the biggest robbery of the year?
Ooh, that's a great question. Biggest robbery there? That's up there. I actually, if we're talking recent, I thought there were a couple robberies on the Tampa card. I thought Mir Sharp beat Eric Anders.
A lot of people think Luis Pena won, too.
I could see that. Personally, watching it the first time.
Pissed, wasn't it?
Yeah, watching it the first time, I scored it for Vola. But obviously, Pena did more damage in that fight. So, what do you What do you think of the scoring overall, Jose? I mean, this is opening up a huge can of worms right now. But what do you think?
You're talking about the 10-9, 10-8? I hate it.
What would you do different?
I like the pride rules.
Yeah.
I like you won. All right, you won. I like judging at the end of the round. I like 10-minute rounds. Perry was if someone goes correction, Perry was robbed of his nose. That's just mean.
Apparently his taxes as well. Have you seen his Instagram stories? He owes loads he's having to pay 70 grand in taxes.
Jose, what's your mom's best dish? Oh, she makes good tacos. Dominick Reyes was robbery, but I don't think that was 2018 if I'm not mistaken. Correct?
Yeah. No, I don't remember.
I can't quite. Was that 20? Was that?
I think it was the end. Wasn't it December?
Was that in the Moncton card or whatever? I can't remember.
That was last year.
Yeah, I can't remember. A lot of people are saying Dominick Reyes. Zabit ran. 2-1 Pena. We're getting a lot of Luis Pena stuff too. Ooh, 10 months ago. Should they do a Superman versus Batman like promo for Habib Tony? All right, then who's Batman and who's Superman? You guys tell me. Do you guys watch bare-knuckle fighting? Well, I know Oscar does. Do you guys watch bare-knuckle fighting? I know Oscar does, especially when Artem fights.
I'm going for Artem's next fight next month.
What do you make of that? Do you like that fight? I don't like the rematch. I think after Artem beat Paulie, he was obviously the biggest name in combat sports that night. I think that night, I'll say. So after he beats Paulie Malignaggi, now he's just rematching Jason. I know Artem will fight anybody, but do you like that fight?
Well, I've spoken to Artem about it, and I was like, mate, the fact you would say yes to that is insane after what happened the first time. But he was like, he feels somewhat. It seems like he feels somewhat obligated to Jason Knight for putting on that fight. He wants to repay him with a rematch. He said, I owe him one, and I was like, mate, better, tougher man than me, obviously. But yeah, I mean, it's what it is, isn't it? I would love to have seen him use that Paulie fight to bounce up and stuff. And I know he's negotiating with a bunch of people still. I actually wanted him and Paulie to rematch on that KSI Logan Paul card. I just feel like it kind of
Good God.
is in tone. But, yeah.
I forgot about that fight card.
Or
that boxing match was
Right,
happening.
big fight, isn't it?
I can't argue in terms of fan interest.
Tony's not the Batman. Tony's the Joker, surely.
Only blah blah blah. Is Artem fighting? Yeah, we're talking about that. How many ESPN channels are there? I don't know. There's 1,000. Askren, early stoppage versus Masvidal. Yeah, probably. Artem almost beat Michael Johnson. Laugh all you want. Johnson had to take him down to win the last round. I didn't watch that fight. I was at a wedding.
A round of Cub as well, no? The first round. I think game the first round of that.
Jose
Same thing.
Macy Barber versus Shevchenko, late 2020? Question mark. Could be. If she keeps winning, like we talked about, that women's flyweight division is not the deepest right now, especially near the top. I mean, if she keeps winning, Macy Barber, I think, is one of those fighters that could talk her way into a title fight. She says she could win tomorrow. I don't know if that's true, but because she says if she gets the time to actually prepare, she will dominate Valentina or Wiley. So, yeah,
She's got superstar potential. You know, Macy Barber. She's got superstar potential.
She was I believe number 6 on ESPN's like best fighters under 25. She took issue to that. She said Sugar Sean hasn't fought since I believe it's UFC 222. I want to say, which was the Cyborg Kunitskaya fight. That was when he fought Andrei Sukhomtov, pride of Woonsocket, Rhode Island. Yeah, he fought Andrei Sukhomtov. Correct. Macy fight is off per coach's Twitter. Oh God, don't tell me that. Someone look it up. Don't tell me that.
What's that?
Someone's probably lying.
No, mate, do you not see that's their little gimmick? They always put.
No, I don't.
Oh, they always put little lies in there just to fuck with you.
God, gave me a heart attack, guy or woman. Needs to fight. Woodley needs to fight. Yeah, I'd like to see him fight, but I don't know who. Masvidal wouldn't just swing on anybody else. He didn't swing on Bisping many times he had the chance. Do you think Barber can make 115? Well, she's made it before. Barber should weigh in first. Yeah, it's true. She hasn't weighed in yet.
She's got 13 minutes.
So does Jillian Robertson, and so does Derron Win. Jose, what is fight week like for you? What is fight week like for you? How much work do you do? How much do you have off? Fight week is chaos for me, man. I've been solo this whole time, so I've been doing video, editing, social, all that. Fight week this week is chaos, but of course when Casey Lyden and Esther Lynn are on site, it's a joy to work with those guys. Haven't got to work with Pete Carroll directly yet. He's over in Dublin, but I like working with Danny. I like working with all those guys. But this week has been a little chaos. It's also been pouring outside, and I used to live in New England, and then when I come back here, I remember why I left, because driving is impossible. Connor will return and get back to the top. Willie against Colby. I have big mouth. Okay. I read that verbatim, by the way. Could the UFC make an interim title for Ngannou if DC and Stipe fight against two? There's no reason to. The title would be on the line if Stipe and DC fight. Do you think Bisping actually fought with one eye? That's an interesting question.
I think he fought as good as. I think he was legally.
There's no truth to this Macy Barber thing, by the way.
Yeah.
There's no truth. I just.
So whoever just commented that, well done. You actually. Oh, there's someone's waiting. Oh, we got a towel.
Oh, got a towel. Someone's up here. I can't see who it is. It's either Derron Win, Jillian Robertson, or Macy Barber. But we have 11 minutes left. Wait, where's Esther? Who will take the photos? Good question. We'll talk about it later. Is Oscar's last name Myers? Because he sure is a wiener. Oscar is getting real heated at this comment right now. It's Macy Barber up right now. She needs the hoop. 126 for Macy Barber. She makes the flyweight limit, so that fight, one half of that fight is good to go. Macy Barber has made weight, 126 pounds. Now we are just waiting on Jillian Robertson. We are waiting on Jillian Robertson and Derron Win. So back to the comments. Anyone who thinks Barber will win is crazy. She could win. She's been winning. She's undefeated in the UFC. She's finished both of her opponents. And I see Derron Win is up next. Product of Daniel Cormier, a.k.a. He too will need the towel. Avert your eyes, because if you don't want to see anything, because we are, of course, on the dreaded side angle, so we don't know what will happen. We obviously saw Max Holloway. What happened to Max Holloway in Edmonton don't want to happen to you fine folks again. So divert your eyes if you don't want to see anything, just in case. But it didn't happen last time. It shouldn't happen again, but who knows? $188.5 for Derron Win. He's coming over the limit. We'll find out what happens now, but he has come in about 2 pounds over the limit, 2.5 pounds over the middleweight limit. We'll see if he continues to cut weight. Derron Win has missed weight. Derron Win weighs 188.5. We are not sure if he'll keep cutting weight. So second fighter tonight has missed weight. Derron Win has missed weight. Amanda Bermudez has missed weight. So Mike Heck rejoins us again. Tough times for Derron Win, huh?
Very tough times. Interesting. 188.5. So that's the second fighter to miss. I'm sure Darren Stewart's got to take the fight, so he'll get 20% of the purse. So we'll see how it affects performances either way, but pretty unfortunate.
It's super unfortunate. Product of DC. Way too short to be a light heavyweight. Way too small to be a 185er. Looks like. I think he'd be one of those fighters like I believe it was he'd be one of those fighters that would need a 195 weight class maybe. And I know a lot of fighters like Weidman and Rockhold have said it. Thiago Santos has said it. Kevin Holland has said it. Just a bummer all around. Derron Win. This is supposed to be a big showcase fight for him, and he has missed weight. I have no idea if he's going to keep cutting weight. I can't imagine he is. But we'll try to find out.
Interesting thing with Derron Win, I just want to point this out, is that this is actually, I think, only the second time he's fought at middleweight. If you remember in Bellator, he had a lot of catch weights, even as high as even over 205 for some of those fights. So if you remember when he fought Tom Lawler, that was at 205 as well. He's not a big guy, but he does he's kind of like a mini DC in a way. He's got sort of a thicker frame. So disappointing he's missed weight, but it should be noted that he hasn't made middleweight a lot. So it's interesting that he misses here.
With James Lynch giving us the facts of Derron Win. I remember that fight against Tom Lawler. I believe it was the co-main event of the Golden Boy MMA.
I think some fights fell out on that. Yeah.
So Derron lose. Well, that's just mean. Mini DC's next fight at 205. I don't know if he goes up to 205. He's way too small. Kevin Lee sees holes in his weight cut. I'll pause for a quick second. We haven't heard anything yet. Jose Young's back here at the UFC Boston weigh-ins. We haven't heard anything yet on if Derron Win will keep cutting weight, but you have to think he's done. Didn't look great up there. It's not like he's half a pound over or 1 pound over. He was 2.5 pounds over. So you got to imagine he's done, but nothing's official yet. 20% is a lot. 20% of your purse is a lot to lose, especially when you only fight 2-3 times a year. You don't have another job. So people that say 20% is nothing don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah, it's the second fight in the UFC, so
He's only on a he's on an early contract. So he's not making like 6 figures a fight. Olympians are on a different level. Yeah, duh. He doesn't even look like he tried, so he probably be fresh for the fight. I don't know. I don't want to speak for Derron Win. Arnold Allen, future champ. Could be. He looks great his last few fights. Make him fight at 205. See, people keep saying move up to 205. He's very small. And here we go. It looks like one last fighter. Julian Robertson is the last fighter, so we will see. Another hoop. The hoop of shame, as Esterlin calls it. I also don't know why they don't just stitch the towel into the lining of the hoop. They put the hoop up and the towel up. Why? Why not just stitch it into the lining? And Julian Robertson is up.
$126.
126 for Julian Robertson. She's on weight. That fight against Macy Barber is official. And that should be it, if I'm not mistaken. Correct, James?
Yep.
That is it. So all fighters have weighed in. 2 fighters have missed weight. Derron Win and Julian Robertson. I do not have an official word on if Derron Win is still weighing in. I'll try to find out, because if not, then if he is not weighing in, then that is a wrap for us. But if he's still going to weigh in, we'll be here for a little longer as Julian Robertson hits the scale. And there you have it. She is ready to fight. Still trying to figure out if Derron Win is weighing in again. And as UFC says, they do not know what is going on with Derron either. So I'm going to pause for a quick second, see if I can find anything out, and I'll be right back. And we're back. Still nowhere on Derron Win. UFC's trying to figure it out, whether they should keep letting him cut or whether he will cut. Still not sure for those asking. there's still nothing. People ask me, what if you hear anything? Have heard nothing yet. UFC's still trying to figure out. Looks like a lot of people are texting, a lot of people are trying to figure out, but there's still no word on whether Derron Win will continue to cut weight. A lot of people now sharing where they live for whatever reason in the comment section. My dream is to go to the U.S. and watch a big UFC event. I just don't have the money. It sucks being poor. It does suck being poor. Don't I know it? Jose, tell Megan she should come back. I assume you're speaking of Megan Oliva, who just walked by. Which is not very nice. How long does Derron Win have? It's an hour, correct? An hour? So, yeah. Another hour to weigh in if he does need it. But still no word on if he will weigh in. He's puking his brains out at this moment. Who knows? We don't know that for sure. I'm just reading all the comments. I remember I was at UFC. I'm speaking with Mike Heck here again. I was at UFC 225. I think that was Romero Whittaker too, when Romero missed weight. And he came in like 0.2 pounds over. And he missed weight, and then he took like that extra hour, or he was supposedly going to be given an extra hour before they told him to stop cutting weight. I went into the bathroom to just go to the bathroom after, and it was like out of a horror movie. Like there was just throw up everywhere. And I was like, what is happening right now? So that will show you how hard Yoel Romero tried to make weight. And he missed by 0.2 pounds. So I felt real bad for him after. I walked in, I was like, oh. It was like all like there was nothing left for him to throw up. He was just trying to force himself. It was bad.
I have a question for you, Jose.
Sure.
Because a lot of people have been asking me about this. How dare you, Oscar? What do you think's next for Jared Cannonier? You know, he's come off that win. He's got overlooked real quick.
By the way, Derron Win will not continue cutting weight.
Is that what we just heard? So we're hearing words that Derron Win will not be cutting weight. But okay, so Derron Win is not cutting any more weight. But to answer your question, they're working out a fine. To answer Mike's question, Oscar and I think him versus Romero is a fun fight. Just depends on if you want Romero to fight another contender on a 2-fight losing streak, but I just like that fight in general. So we're hearing reports that he will not be cutting weight. They're just trying to find. We'll try and find out right here. And 1 second. So Derron Win, Darren Stewart is a go. Derron Win will be fined 20% of his purse. Manny Bermudez will also be fined 20% to Charles Rosa. Both of those fights are still on. And that is a wrap from the UFC Boston official weigh-ins. My name has been Jose Youngs. You can follow me at Jose Youngs across all social medias. You can stick around at MMA Fighting on Twitter, at MMA Fighting DOTCOM. Thank you, of course, to Oscar Willis from The Mac Life, as he gives me a lovely Oscar. I think you're handsome too. You don't have to keep telling me all of the time. And of course, thank you to our own James Lynch. Oh, not our own, but James Lynch of The Score for popping in. Mike Heck, wherever he went, he was great on. He was great. We'll try and get him on the preview show and the post-fight show. He had some excellent insight into the Boston MMA fight scene. But thank you to everyone who joined me. This has been Jose Youngs. I hope you've enjoyed my golf commentary here in the lovely Cambridge, Massachusetts. And for Jose, I'm out.